Promoting the culture of West Africa to the world. To the world. West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Niamey. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Here are the top stories. Reactions trail 5 candidates confirmed for Côte d'Ivoire's October 2025 election.
They
really see that those mentioned right here, they carry weight. That's why they excluded them from the electoral list.
Women can do just as much. A woman can also be president.
Against Alassane Ouattara, no chance.
7-day warning strike by Nigerian resident doctors leaves patients and relatives in dire condition. Ghana's Traders Association shut down over 200 foreign shops for alleged retail laws violation.
We are all Ghanaians, but we are all fans here because we don't have any authorities to fight for us.
When you close your shop, we are giving you three days. If you refuse to do so or you don't want to comply with what we are saying, then we need to enforce it. That's why we go to court.
An audit exposes $2.8 million in unsubstantiated payments at Ministry of Finance back in public outrage in Liberia. Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Thank you for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in Côte d'Ivoire, where the Constitutional Council validated 5 candidates for the October 2025 presidential election. This announcement by the president of the council, Chantal Nanaba Kamara, have sparked wide reactions locally and internationally. Out of 60 applications submitted, only 5 were selected, including incumbent President Alassane Ouattara. However, the applications of former President Laurent Gbagbo and Tijan Cham, representing the main opposition party, PDCI, were disqualified. Abdullah Hassan completes the story.
The disqualification of several opposition leaders, including former President Laurent Gbagbo, continues to spark discussions across the streets of Abidjan. Here are some reactions from ordinary Ivorians regarding this announcement.
They really see that those mentioned right here, they carry weight. That's why they excluded them from the electoral list.
It can be adjusted because this is not a democracy. It's more of a dictatorship.
Out of the 5 selected candidates, 2 are women, Simone Gbagbo and former Minister Henriette Lago. While feminists appreciate the inclusion of these 2 women in the presidential race, they recognize that neither one of them carries significant influence in the political arena.
Women can do just as much. When there is a boy who is president, a woman can also be president.
Against Alassane Ouattara, no chance. Maybe not, it's just makeup. Otherwise, no chance. One must even somewhat deceive oneself. If she has been selected, she might get a few votes. It's not to pluck the presidential seat reserved for men once again. She might get a few votes to please the female audience.
3 candidates are running for the presidency for the first time: Aoua Don Melo, Jean-Louis Bion, and Simone Gbagbo. These candidates are viewed by citizens as the new generation of political leaders who are expected to shape the Ivorian political landscape for years to come.
Nothing is decided because we do not know what support the candidates will receive. The PPA, CR and the PDCR, they could certainly have negotiations. And if these candidates receive support from these major parties, I think it is not predetermined because the environment is such that today the population is experiencing changes.
As a reminder, the presidential election campaign will commence on October 10 with the polls scheduled for October 25, 2025.
A report from WDR's Abidjan correspondent Marcel Harrison Blair and voiced by Abdullah Hassan. Meanwhile, in Benin, various religious denominations have provided recommendations to national stakeholders to promote peaceful elections in 2026. These suggestions were developed during a 3-day seminar organized by the Consultative Framework of Religious Denominations of Benin, which took place from September 2 to 4, 2025. Participants at the meeting highlighted the importance of conducting elections that are both free from violence and transparent. Christopher Teacher reports.
The meeting brought together more than 400 delegates from Benin's various religious denominations to discuss their role in ensuring peaceful elections in 2026. The religious representatives also held discussions with representatives of the National Autonomous Electoral Commission, SENA, and the National Agency for Identification of Persons. At the end of the meeting, the religious denominations committed to working for peace, democracy and prosperity in Benin. Mohamed Lassisi is the General Rapporteur of the event.
At
the end of the 3 days of work, we decided to invite every Beninese woman and man, every institutional actor, and the entire political class to place Benin, its peace, and the unity of the nation in the hands of Almighty God, above any person, any political party, and any institution, whatever it may be. The code of conduct in a democracy like Benin is the submission of all citizens, all entities, including religious denominations.
The religious denominations framework encouraged the various stakeholders to use national and international channels of appeal, as well as constructive dialogue to resolve potential political and electoral disputes.
Christopher Teacher with the details of that report found by WDR's Cotonou correspondent Aziz Adam Soleil. Let's head to Mali, where terror is beginning to take root in the Kaya region west of the country. The terrorist group JNIM announced a blockade on the main roads leading to the city. Recently, non-state armed men intercepted trucks carrying goods to Bamako, and some of these trucks were set on fire. In the wake of this, the Malian army is reassuring the population of proactive measures to address the situation. Augustin Koli completes the story.
The National Union of Truck Drivers in Mali is preparing to travel to the Kai region to meet with transporters operating the Kai-Bamako route. This is the primary road for transporting many goods from Senegal to Bamako. The terrorist group JNIM announced that it has imposed a blockade along this route, following the arrest of several drivers and the burning of their trucks filled with goods. Many are now afraid to use this road. The union aims to gather information about the situation before meeting with the government in the coming days. In discussions with authorities in Bamako, they will focus on measures to secure the transport of goods by the Malian army. For now, the transport of goods between Senegal and Mali via Kai continues, according to Souleymane Komari, head of the National Union of Truck Drivers in Mali. While some truckers are stuck in Kai due to fear of returning to the road, others are still taking the risk of traveling to Bamako. At the border between Senegal and Mali, Malian trucks transporting goods are continuing their circulation towards Bamako via Kai, a security source at the border confirmed.
Augustin Koli with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, in Ghana, more than 200 retail shops, mostly belonging to Nigerians, at the popular Abosi Okai spare part market have been shut down by a task force of the Spare Part Dealers Association. The Abosi Okai Spare Parts Market Association Director of Communications, Taki Ado, explained that the closure were prompted by violations of the country's retail laws, which reserve retail and petty trading exclusivity for Ghanaian citizens. However, the Nigerian Traders Association is expressing concerns about the impact of the move on trade relations, urging their Ghanaian counterparts to exercise caution in enforcing the law. Nadia Detete reports.
The Abosi Okai Spare Parts Dealers Association says the crackdown stems from violations of Ghana's investment laws, which reserve retail and petty trading exclusively to citizens. The move, they explained, is intended to enforce compliance and protect local businesses that have long complained of unfair competition. Under the Ghana Investment Promotion Act, Act 865, retail trade is strictly reserved for Ghanaians, but traders insist enforcement has been weak. One dealer compared Ghana's lax approach with the tighter restrictions in Nigeria.
In Lagos State, you can't. You can't. There's no way. I've been there. I've been taking spare parts from there. Go there as a wholesaler before you be allowed. Even the amount you pay for the trade ministry before you be issuing your licenses, it's not that easy. That's why some of us can afford it. They say everything. Yeah, we have the laws. But they are not using the laws. They are not enforcing the laws.
Some traders also lamented that authorities and trade associations had abandoned them, leaving them vulnerable.
We are all Ghanaians, but we are orphans here because we don't have any authorities to fight for us.
Others accused the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, of harassment, saying Ghanaian traders are hounded over taxes while foreigners operate with little restriction. Director of Communications for the Abossey Spare Parts Dealers Association, Techi Ado, announced at a press briefing that foreign traders in the enclave have been given a 3-day ultimatum to vacate their shops or face a total enforcement of the law.
Honorably, just close your shop. When you close your shop, we are giving you three days. If you refuse to do so or you don't want to comply with what we are saying, then we need to enforce it. That's why we go to court to seek for injunction and get the police service. We come and force them.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Traders Association, NUTA, has expressed concern about the development, warning that the crackdown could strain relations between the two countries. Here is the president of the Nigerian Traders Association, Evaritus Inwako.
We don't have two governments here in Ghana. We have only one government. We want to pause and see what the government will say about it. Then we can take it from there.
The latest closures revive long-standing tensions over Ghana's retail laws, which have repeatedly sparked clashes between local traders and foreign nationals in recent years. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Now to some health matters. In Nigeria, a 7-day warning strike by resident doctors in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, enters its second day this Tuesday. The doctors are accusing the FCT administration of neglecting critical issues in the healthcare sector, including poor working conditions and inadequate resources. Patients and their families are voicing concerns over limited access to medical care, urging the government to take immediate action to resolve the crisis. Usman Marin, Abuja reports.
The doctors are protesting what they describe as long-standing failures in the territory's health system, including poor staffing, unpaid salaries, and unsafe working conditions. Their president, Dr. George Ebong, told journalists that the decision followed an emergency meeting after months of fruitless discussions with the FCT administration.
They have refused to employ, they have refused to pay, they have refused to promote, they have refused to skip, they have refused to convert our fellow colleagues who have passed their part 2. They've refused to pay the 13-month allowance arrears. We are getting demoralized now. We can't continue to work in this pattern.
We expected that government should call us to negotiation table, at least to look into what we have been asking and clamoring for. But unfortunately, governments seem not to listen to us.
The doctors say there has been no fresh recruitment into the FCT hospitals since 2011, leaving them overstretched and vulnerable. They cite cases of medical staff collapsing from exhaustion and even a nurse who died from a snake bite at Abaji General Hospital. Patients and their relatives, worried about access to care, are appealing to the government to step in quickly.
The government should do something about it. Take care of the doctor who has been working day and night, making sure that life is brought back to the right position.
We are the ones suffering, because we don't have money to go to the private hospital. And if we come here, if we cannot see doctors here, where do we go to? We go home and sit, and we are sick, So I think the government should listen to whatever the doctors are saying and whatever it is they want and sort it out with them.
The association is demanding that the FCT minister declare a state of emergency in all 14 district and general hospitals across the capital. It warns that if nothing changes after the warning strike, the action could escalate into an indefinite shutdown. Meanwhile, Minister of State for Health, Dr. Isaac Shalako, says talks are ongoing with the National Association of Resident Doctors, expressing confidence that the dispute can be resolved before it degenerates further. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
And in more health news, clinical trials for a potential Lassa fever vaccine are currently underway in Ghana, Nigeria and Liberia. This was disclosed by Dr. Henshaw Mandi, a consultant to the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations at the second ECOWAS Lassa Fever International Conference taking place in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. The initiative is part of global efforts to address one of the region's ongoing public health challenges. Several scientists, policy makers, and development partners are gathering in the Ivorian capital to share research findings and develop collaborative strategies to combat Lassa fever in West Africa. Sankle Janko reports.
Dr. Henshaw Mandi explained that the ongoing phase 2A clinical trial for Lassa fever is only one stage of a rigorous process. He emphasized that the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, CEPI, and its partners are committed to ensuring that any eventual vaccine does not become a total only accessible to wealthier nations. To achieve this, the Regionalized Vaccine Manufacturing Collaborative has been established. The initiative aims to build capacity in select countries within the sub-region to produce vaccines locally. Although no official decision has been made on the specific countries that will manufacture the vaccine, Dr. Mandi cited Senegal as one with the necessary infrastructure and experience to support vaccine production. In addition to the vaccine trials, the health expert revealed that large-scale epidemiological studies on Lassa fever are ongoing in 5 West African countries, namely Nigeria, Benin, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea. According to him, the first phase of this study involves some 23,000 participants, making it one of the most extensive data-gathering exercises on Lassa fever in the region. Organized by the West African Health Organization WAHO, with the support of CEPI and other global partners, the ongoing ECOWAS Lassa Fever International Conference, ELFCI 2025 in Abidjan, is the foremost international forum for tackling Lassa fever.
Sankle Jacob filed that report. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar and around the world on wadr.org and Utelsat 16A on frequency 12687 MHz. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Reactions trail 5 candidates confirmed for Côte d'Ivoire's October 2025 election. 7-day warning strike by Nigerian resident doctors leaves patients and relatives in dire condition. Ghana's Traders Association shuts down over 200 foreign shops for alleged retail laws violation. And still ahead, audit exposes $2.8 million in unsubstantiated payments at Ministry of Finance sparking public outrage in Liberia. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sport news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
We're streaming live on wadr.org, YouTube, and Facebook. In Liberia, the latest audit report released by the General Auditing Commission, GAC, reveals over $2.8 million in unsubstantiated payment made by the Ministry of Finance. The audit uncovered a significant lack of essential documentation, including payment receipts, vendor quotations, formal contracts, expenditure report, and delivery notes. This revelation is igniting public outrage and calls for accountability, underscoring critical issues in financial governance. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports.
According to the audit report, the absence of missing documentation makes it impossible to verify the legitimacy and the purpose of certain expenditures, raising concerns about potential fraud or corruption. The situation is further complicated by the fact that 11 state-owned enterprises failed to meet their income tax obligations for 2024. These entities were expected to remit $10.16 million, but only $5.6 million was actually paid, resulting in a shortfall that could negatively impact government revenue and public services. In response to the GAC report, Finance Minister Augustine Gaffon stated that the majority of the discrepancies occurred before his tenure and urged the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission to conduct a thorough investigation.
Auditors don't come to say you have stolen. They come and find system weaknesses that you need to work on. But in this environment of gullibility, where people project negativity on people, when they see audit report, they conclude. NSCC, please investigate this for this country. I beg the NSCC to investigate.
Despite this, popular discontent is rising. Opposition figures and concerned citizens, including former Deputy Minister for Development and Planning Benente Koloba, are voicing strong criticism regarding the alleged financial mismanagement.
The foundation of the government was built on elucifies the complex problem to appear very simple, that it will be addressed within a twinkle of an eye. Then the reality sets in now. With that flawed foundation, the whole payroll was flawed. From the Ministry of Finance, I can say the most dangerous entity in this regime is not the police, it is the CSA. The danger we are playing with in this country.
It remains to be seen whether the government will initiate a formal investigation and prosecute those responsible for the alleged irregularities. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, we'll remain in Liberia with Abraham Parker for the newspaper review.
Welcome to the Tuesday's edition of Press Review for Monrovia. This edition begins with the news, the nation's news since 1989, and it goes with these stories. Tangible benefits, Bwaka on Liberia-China relations. Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency engaged Painesville residents. And the editorial in the nation's news says, address economic hardship now, not later. Our next stop is Daily Observer newspaper, and these are stories topping. Capital Arson defendants seek independent medical examination. Liberia is a step away from receiving second MCC compite. Finance Minister Augustine Gaffouin defends U.S. $2.8 million audit findings, calls for LACC investigation into past and current reports. And our last stop is the Oracle News Daily, making it for the first time on Press Review. And this is the long story. Who took the money? Auditor General says Liberia's finance ministry cannot account for more than 100 million in consolidated funds. Well, that does it for this edition of Press Review from Monrovia. Thanks so kindly for listening.
Many thanks, Abraham Parker, for the newspaper review.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
In this segment, we return to our first story from Côte d'Ivoire, where the Constitutional Council has cleared just 5 contenders for next month's presidential election, leaving out some of the country's most prominent political figures, including former President Laurent Gbagbo and Tidjane Cham. With tensions high and questions over inclusivity and democratic credibility, we turn now to Austin Aigbe, Wadr's liaison officer to ECOWAS, to help us unpack what these developments mean for Côte d'Ivoire's political future. Ms. Austin, thank you very much for your time. Well, the much-awaited finalist for the Ivorian election is out. 5 candidates have so far been selected. From a governance perspective, what does the exclusion of major opposition figures like Laurent Gbagbo and Tidjane Cham mean for the credibility and inclusiveness of Côte d'Ivoire's electoral process?
Thank you very much for having me. Part of the challenge in Africa politics, particularly what we are now seeing in West Africa, is a deliberate attempt for ruling party to exclude major opponents they think will give them a good fight. So what you are seeing in Côte d'Ivoire is not an exception, and it's not too good for our electoral landscape, our governance architecture, and from a governance perspective, it does not send a good note to the electorate that everyone has a right to participate in the electoral process. However, if exclusion is based on good note, for instance, unable to meet the threshold to contest election, that is understandable. But when it is a deliberate attempt to, like the case of Laurent Gbagbo, it is clear that Laurent Gbagbo is beginning to be very popular in the country, and Alassane Ouattara does not want that level of popularity to compete with him, and the best thing is to take him out. The use of the electoral management body to to exclude Laurent Gbagbo is intentional, and that makes it more a bit sad from a governor perspective. However, I think that what Laurent Gbagbo need to do is to organize around a candidate, just like we saw in Senegal when Sonko was in prison, and then Faye had to pull up, and Sonko's support went to Faye, and today Senegal is, will I say, on a good hand or on a good trajectory? Well, history will tell.
Very well. Well, how might the Constitutional Council's decision to accept only 5, out of 60 applications, affect public trust in democratic institutions in a country like Cote d'Ivoire?
Well, the Constitutional Council have the responsibility to do the needful because it is the Constitutional Council. So probably it's to review the reason why 55 were excluded or removed from the candidacy list. But however, it does impact strongly on trust, public trust, because a lot of those who follow Laurent Gbagbo and of course the other candidates, the other 64, whether you call them low support or minimum support, they are citizens of the country, and it does have an implication. So at the end of the day, whoever emerges as winner, if Alassane Ouattara returns, it is going to be read as if the Constitutional Council did work with Alassane Ouattara to deliberately exclude anyone who could possibly win the election. Like I said, Laurent Gbagbo does have a very huge support, the same way with the other candidates in the race. However, the Constitutional Court, like what Senegal did, I can't just stop talking about Senegal, because Senegal Constitutional Council did a fantastic job, and they had to stop the Cuban president at that time from trying to postpone the election. And today's history that Senegal is back on track because the Constitutional Council stood on the side of law and not on the side of political participation. And it is important that the Ivorian Constitutional Council does follow the line and pathways of the Senegalese that stopped Macky Sall from extending his tenure by no matter how many months he intended to extend it up to. But the Constitutional Court played a huge role. And congratulations to the Senegalese Constitutional Court. And I think that the Ivorian Court should do the same and follow. And also we can talk about them on good notes.
Austin Igbe is the Wadr liaison officer to ECOWAS. In sport news, Nigeria Super Eagles head coach Eric Scholl has insisted that he is not concentrating on the side's away clash against Group C leaders South Africa and not his future. He made this known while addressing reporters ahead of Tuesday's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying fixture against the Bafana in Bloemfontein. Scholl's job could be on the line if Nigeria failed to get a good result against their host. The three-time African champions have picked up 7 points from their last 3 games in the qualifiers. The Super Eagles, however, still trail Bafana by 6 points on the Group C table.
We are focused on our game plan. I'm focused about my player. And I know something. The team of South Africa is a very good team. You have a lot of good players. I like your coach. He's a very good coach and his technical staff. So, like I said earlier, we know that this is a big game. So I'm really happy to play this game. Like my players, we are happy, and this is the moment to do a great game.
Nigeria Super Eagles head coach Eric Scholl speaking there. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Zek and Ismaila Kamara for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, TikTok, Instagram, at WDR English. And do join our French team at the top of the hour for the news in French and for chez vous. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New EMI FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM,
FM, Rivers County. Wakat FM Radio, Baga, Liberia. Radio Gaf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your